So we started this company in 1983 with $35,000, 8 men and 2 trucks. And today we've got about 600 service trucks running across North America, 2,000 employees, and just the electrical portion will do well over $500 million this year.
Today, Lin Rogers runs a billion-dollar electrical empire, powering data centers, Amazon warehouses, and the infrastructure behind AI.
I flew to the Arctic Circle with a group of gentlemen to go hunting. And I got out of the airplane and I put my running clothes on and I started running. And I looked down there and there was about a whole village watching me run. And they asked my best friend, what chases him? Bear said, I don't know, but it's been chasing him all his life.
In this episode, he talks faith, family, failure, and what it really takes to build something that lasts 43 years and counting.
You know, I truly believe that God opens the doors, but it's your job to step through them.
Some conversations were never meant to be recorded. This one was. Dick Schultz, University of Iowa basketball coach, ran the NCAA, and led the United States Olympic Committee. Kevin Crampton, author of Tuned, former CEO, who has led billion-dollar deals around the globe and credits Dick as his greatest mentor. Welcome to Tune Talks.
Lin Rogers, welcome to Tune Talks.
Thank you.
This is our opportunity to talk about the challenges, the changes, and the sometimes chaos that life brings and how you've navigated that through all these years. You started off, you're an entrepreneur, started off in 1983, started your own business, and have grown it to a international global business, over 1,500 employees. You're in various markets all around the world, and all of a sudden you're in a very glamorous business now, given the world has changed in terms of the kinds of technologies and the applications and how you've expanded the business in various ways. So maybe you can start about how the journey started and we can go from there.
Well, you know, I am a serial entrepreneur. We've started over 14 companies. Most of them we have sold, except for the family business with electrical contracting that we started in 83. And it continues to grow through the day. We just built a budget for just the electrical side of the business to pass over the $1 billion revenue mark. It's unbelievable. We laugh about it. We never thought electrical contracting would be in the glamour segment. But today, with all the data center space, the robotics, the integration of Gen 3 on the conveyors we do, critical power, we're in a very good position. You know, we've got a little over 2,000 employees, and God has just continually blessed us. And I truly believe that God opens the doors, but it's your job to step through them. And so we just got an amazing team and have been truly, truly blessed in this market.
Lin, tell us how you got started in the electrical engineering business or electrical construction business?
Well, I was actually an apprentice, and the lead engineer approached me in 1977 for a small company here in Atlanta and said, I'm going to go open up my own business. And I had raised some capital. You'll laugh, I was 19 at the time. And I had raised some capital. I was in the apprenticeship program. And then we pulled our capital together and opened up a little company called Premium Electric in 1977. In 1983, we grew that company to about $1.5 million in revenue, and I offered to buy him out. We had a cookie cutter agreement. Andy was a lot older than I was at the time. He was 53, which doesn't seem that old today. It did at the time. It's amazing how time has a dealer on that. And so in turn, he bought me out and he kept the small company. So we started this company in 1983 with $35,000, 8 men and 2 trucks. And today we've got about 600 service trucks running across North America, 2,000 employees, and just the electrical portion will do well over $500 million this year.
Lin, you've had, I've always admired your ability to be an entrepreneur, and your construction business was going pretty well, and then COVID came along, or actually before that, construction dropped off a little bit. So you had the ability to make some adjustments in your company to keep it strong. Tell us about what you did.
Well, I've been really blessed, Dick, over the years to have what we call a seaman's eye. You just to understand the market and position yourself and the company of where you need to be. And we could see the transition in the expanding logistics space and what Amazon was doing to the overall market, and even Walmart on their logistics program, which I think is underrated in the marketplace for doing an excellent job in growth. The Amazon people came, some of our teams that we had built Home Depots and Walmarts and Targets for, left those organizations and went to Amazon, and they reached out to us and said, Lin, we need you to do what you did for them. We've got to make these dates. And Dick, we were never the cheapest electrical contractor, but if we have to be done, if we have to have 70 projects done before Black Friday, we will have 70 projects done before Black Friday. That's our commitment to you. And in turn, construction has grown 400%.
Well, your service industry has really, really expanded, and then with COVID, that slowed down a little bit, didn't it?
That slowed down, and so we took those teams and migrated them into the logistics space. And so we're at the interesting crossroads right now. We're doing the robotics for several major clients with the service team. We're doing critical power systems on generators and data centers with the service team. We actually are moving the service team into the EMS BMS system, which is the brains piece that manages the data centers. So I think in the next 30 months, we'll have over 900 service trucks in the critical care space. In fact, we had a team here 2 days ago, Dick, that came and saw us and asked us if we would move our Sacramento office to Reno and commit 150 technicians in Reno for the next 10 years.
Well,
And today, what's your mix of business between projects and service? What is it today?
Today, it's about 70-30, 70% construction, 30% service. Traditionally, it had been almost a 50-50 business for a decade, but this hyper growth in the data center space, you can't grow service at the same rate because, Kevin, we were just awarded a Google site in Texas. Just the base electrical is $350 million without equipment.
Wow.
And that's one building. There's 5 buildings. So for decades, our average project was $1 million to $1.5 million. When COVID came and we moved to the logistics, it moved to the $5 to $7 million per project on just the electrical side, not the electrical data, but just electrical. Today, we have numerous $50 million electrical projects going. It's just the migration and the work. And a lot of these data centers will start as your entry will be an LOI for a $50 million project, but the reality is it'll be $200 to $400 million before you're offsite.
Yeah.
Now, have you done a good job of expanding with your customer? So your customer's happy with you, and then all of a sudden you say, I can do that too, or I can do that too. Is that been part of the genesis of your revenue growth?
Yes, sir. To be honest with you, on the very first project we did for Amazon, we stood in the middle of that giant 1 million square feet logistics warehouse and said, what do we not own that we should own?
Mm-hmm.
Should we own the conveyor operational power? Should we the controls, the energy management system, security systems, fire protection, smoke evac? What piece of this business, generator power, redundant power? And look, and we've layered in, because our typical customer has about 8 buckets of capital spend. And we look at how do you migrate to those and what's the barrier entry and what's the risk model with each segment.
And then just, if I could just take a step back. So you start up this business, you decide you want to be an entrepreneur. Was there something in your childhood? Was there a history of entrepreneurship? What drove you to do that versus just be a guy working for a larger company?
Well, my father was a minister.
Okay.
And he always had with 5 children, he always had a small construction company to pay the bills, because he always had small churches. And, back in those days, there was no money in ministry. That was long before the mega churches. And so he always had a little construction company. So we just grew up. The biggest gift that he gave us is he taught us to work, and he taught us to be hungry. And so that was those two items. A small story. I don't know if it's relative or not, but I flew to the Arctic Circle with a group of gentlemen to go hunting. And I got out of the airplane, and I put my running clothes on, and I started running. And I looked down there, and there was about a whole village watching me run. And they asked my best friend, what chases him? And I said, and Barrett said, I don't know, but it's been chasing him all his life. So that constant hunger, that constant evaluation. I mean, in 2000, Kevin, we wrote a 25-year plan, and we're still working on it. And we now have another 25-year plan that where do we want to be in 2035, 2040? Where do we want the family, the children, our global businesses? We've been blessed. And then you go back to 1986, 85, we built store number 3 for Home Depot. And Arthur and Bernie were just a real blessing to us. They, as they grew and expanded across North America, they gave us the locations a year in advance of where they were moving to, the cities. And that allowed us to get licensed and get men and get established in those markets. You built the Home Depot, and let's be honest, and you built the Lowe's and the Walmart and the Target. And at that point in life, you weren't smart enough to realize that it was a decade worth of work or more. You didn't realize that expansion across the country would be that. And next thing you know, you end up with licenses in 50 states in North America. You have connections and the ability to work and offices in Los Angeles and Dallas and Miami and New York. And it was really, they planted the seed. We did our job. We did exactly what they asked for us, but they gave you the opportunity and the funding to really expand and grow.
Now, one of the challenges for an entrepreneur is scaling and moving from a small business, maybe a focused geographic location. How did you do that? Multiple locations, multiple geographies. How did you go about successfully doing that? Because most don't do that well.
Most of my competitors are very good in one city or very good regionally. We attacked it that we're going to be very good at multiple sites in multiple areas. And we strategically hired manpower that way and leadership that way, that people that knew I was going to go run a project in Pittsburgh for 18 months. And they've done an amazing job of that. Scalability, I look at myself as reality. I hate to say this today, but I'm a banker. And you manage risk, and you hire the best people you can afford, and you give them the ability and the funding to do their job. And as far as self-preparation, Dick could tell you, I've always gone back to school. I went back to Emory twice, did a master's in finance, went to Harvard. My true training was as an electrician. I'm actually a licensed electrician in 45 states, master electrician. But you constantly prepare yourself mentally, physically, economically, and intellectually to expand and grow your business. And I've had great mentors. Dick has been a fantastic mentor. Another gentleman, Dr. Paul Walker. I've had great people in my life to give me guidance that's been there before.
One thing you've always done, which I think is important when it comes to success, you're an action guy, but you're also a good listener. And you hear what people say, and you can take what they say and their advice, and then you can process that so it comes out what you think is going to be the best situation for you and your company. And I think that's a skill, and being able to listen is almost as important as being able to speak sometimes.
Dick, it's so, I told Alexia this morning that I needed to go to the farm for a couple days just to be quiet and be still, hear that small voice, and think about where we need. Are we on the right track for 26 and 27? Where do we want to spend our energy? Because at the end of the day, when you get our age, it's no longer about economics. It's about your most valuable asset. It's how do you want to deploy your time?
Right.
And so,
Well, your family's always been important to you, and you have a good-sized family. Why don't you give us a little information about that and how you've done to build closeness to your family? You had a couple of work folks and others that are just growing up and getting active.
so no, I've been very fortunate. I have 7 children. Christopher and Lindsay run big parts of the business. Christopher runs the service company. Lindsay's our CEO, and she really runs all the non-engineering aspects of the business. The engineering aspects of the business run by the engineering team. Jason Massett does an amazing job with that group, and Chris runs the service unit. But so those 2 are in the business there. Christopher's 45 and 43, and then Lauren's a stay-at-home mom at 35 with a 5-year-old boy, and very blessed there. Nicholas is a first to leave. All of them, Kevin, live within about 5 miles of me, except for Nicholas is our New York lawyer, and so he does M&A. He's a structural tax lawyer with a master's in tax law for primary multinational companies. And so that's either New York or London, and I'm happy he's only in New York, so I get to see him a little bit more. And they have a 2-year-old little boy. Then Andreas is fixing to be 20 next week, and he's a sophomore at Syracuse who had his flight canceled yesterday as he was trying to get to Warsaw, Poland to see his girlfriend before Christmas.
All right.
And so we had a little excitement with that last night. And then last but not least, we have 2 beautiful 9-year-old identical twin girls that are in the 3rd grade. And it is crazy at our house, but I wouldn't change a thing. They bring more joy. We were all in Spain together, as I shared earlier, over Thanksgiving, doing some family time. We'll all be together at Christmas. And so it's just really fun. Really, really fun.
Of the kids that are in the business, your children, how did you train them up to be successful, to be in the senior positions they're in? What did you do?
First off, we're a big giant advocation on great education. But all the sons have, you're going to laugh, all 3 of my sons worked for the same foreman in the field during their construction field training. And if there was at least a month of the summer that they weren't in a ditch digging, running outside site conduit, we were highly disappointed because we want them to have the true full experience. And with that, we have a really nice management rotation program that they move through different segments: estimating, operations, engineering, accounting, the legal side, contract review. They moved over a 3-year period through all the segments of the business. And then when Lindsay started, we owned a recruiting company, and I didn't realize how valuable that training was. She ran that for about 7 years. And now, Kevin, our biggest opportunity for success is recruiting talent. And we have 10 bilingual recruiters because the construction workforce is definitely moving to higher percentage of Latino. And so she is driving the growth there. You know, to be quite honest with you, we need 500 more people right now in 26 to do what we're going to do. And she's built a beautiful team to do that. And with HR comes all the other fun activities that you get to deal with today.
That was one of the big challenges, because I ran a bunch of manufacturing businesses. As you automate, you know, the challenge becomes, do you have the technical talent to keep these highly automated pieces of equipment going, these robotic pieces of equipment? And that's, I would assume, in your service business, a key aspect too, that you need to have. You don't have to be Einstein, but you have to be technically competent and sound. And then finding those people isn't that easy, in training them and training them isn't that easy either.
it's the whole process, Kevin. It's finding them. We have a very, very, we call it Rogers University, that really works every week. We've got the last quarter, we had 85 technicians that came out of critical power that had completed their courses there, general redundancy. We have all kind of courses that are going to be, and then the lockout, tag out for safety, because you think of a data center, you've got 3 different power feeds going to every piece of equipment, even more complex than a hospital, because you've got 2 separate utility powers coming in, and then you have generator backup, and a lot of times the UPS system also. So it's understanding that energy can get you from multiple directions on your lockout, tag out, your safety program is probably foremost key.
You've done some interesting things with your family, Lynn, and I think it's great that you have the capability to do that, but you've educated them a lot by travel and by taking your whole family as a group, not just you and your spouse or you and one child, but you have the ability a lot of times to take your whole family with you and let everybody have that experience of new things, but doing it all together.
Yeah, Dick, that's, we've been fortunate. Dick and I share a passion for flying. Kevin, I just crossed the 7,000 hour mark with flight hours. And so we're fortunate. We have a Challenger 350 I take back and forth to Europe, and you can load all the kids in it, and 7 hours, 8 hours later, you can be about anywhere in the world you want to be. And we just, at the end of the day, your legacy is your children and what you've done and what you've taught them. Did you teach them to be generous? Did you teach them to be shared? Did you teach them, to be good global citizens? And I'm and you won't know that to the age, but we work on it every day. Even you'll laugh at this, the young children get allowance. They have chores that their mother gave them. And this goes back to old Andy Stanley, and the kids were real young, with the 3-jar system, where they get $20 a week and they can save, they have to give 10%, and they can spend a portion. And it's so fun to watch them learn those basic rules about saving and giving and sharing. And it's just, their mother and I were talking about it this morning. One of them had the bank out, and she was going to buy a gift for her teacher.
Aside from your kids, the grandkids, have you had the chance to do much other mentoring and giving back, like Dick gave to you and others gave to you?
Yeah, I believe you do that every day with your really key. I watch, there's 20 young people that started with the company 20 years ago that I have been totally active. 18 of them are still with the company. One of them runs the biggest job in the business. He's our COO. And you've put your heart and soul into them. And then there's a group of other people that you meet with quarterly that you try to give them some guidance and leadership and direction. And, they have to make those decisions when they leave the building. But the other day I sat down with one of them and just said, you're getting to a critical part of your life. You've got some big decisions that you're going to need to make. I said, write them out, map them out, but take them 3 steps. Because it's not first, I said, do the decision tree. Where does that lead you in 3 steps? And does it lead you and your family and your relationship with your family, your relationship with God, and your relationship with the company that you work for, where you want to be? If it doesn't, you need to step back and see, is it worth the cost? And it was just, so he came back 3 days later, Kevin, and said, that's a terrible exercise. He said, because it makes you look at really hard things and really hard decisions. But he was very happy that we did.
Lynn, how many young people have you helped get their education at a higher level?
Vic, at least a couple hundred. Maybe, I don't know. I have 100 I'm putting through college today. How's that? So that's just, what can I say? I was looking at those numbers with my wife and Lindsay, and it's Kevin, it's a special blessing. You know what I'm saying? To be able be economically to put 100 kids through college in any given time. And to see where they go. And, you get these miracle notes every now and then that you don't even remember putting that kid through college or helping them with an issue. And, hey, I just wanted to say hi. Here's where I am today. And they send you a Christmas card and they got a whole story. It's fun. You won't remember this, but, in 2010, you helped me finish the school. And, it's just, again, I believe you have to give back. If God has blessed you to the level that you have a fiduciary responsibility to share not only your wealth, but your knowledge, your time, and your talent. Dick has done that with us. I mean, he invested in us.
Impact you've had in
Tremendous.
some young people that were struggling a little bit, and you help them with love and toughness to get themselves shaped up the way they should be, and then be very successful afterwards. So I think that's something that's really important that you've emphasized over the years, and it goes along with what you just said. You think it is proper to give back, but it's also proper to really help people be the best they can be.
Oh yeah, no, Dick. I had a conversation with one this morning. Kevin, we'll pay 100% of your education, but you got to keep a 3.0 or better. And if you need tutoring, we'll pay for the tutoring. I want you to be successful. I had one young man that's a little confused, and I told him I loved him and Jesus loved him, but he's going to have to pay part of that next quarter if he thinks the C is okay. And so I don't mind having those tough conversations because I don't have any trouble issuing a check, but I expect you to do your part.
Well, Lin, that's like the story of the talents in the Bible, right? Yeah. There's an expectation.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm going to do my job. You got to do yours.
Yeah. I was just wondering about, so you're out here, you're an entrepreneur, you're taking risks, you're trying to do it in a diligent kind of framework, it sounds like you approach risk-taking. How about the ones that didn't work out that well that you had to...
1990, Kevin, we're probably the second or third largest non-union electrical contractor in the nation today. And in the early 90s, we decided to do some union work with some, and, it might have not went so well. In 94, I might have been broke. I just wasn't smart enough to know it, so we had, I remember a guy named DeWitt Pritchett was our CFO. He was an old friend of my father, used to be the CFO for Sears, and he retired and he came to me to help me. And he said, I'll give you 20 hours a week. I'd like an office and an assistant. I said, sold. DeWitt never worked less than 70 hours a week. That was him. And we got this union work going, and we were running about 15% over on labor. Margins were going terrible. And he laid down to me that, hey, Lin, we're going to lose $1.2 million. And $1.2 million back then was all the money in the world, and so we called it Black Tuesday. We had an office of 36 people and went to 18. And the next year we made $3 million. So we've there's been a few days that we've had to just put our tools on and go out there. We're going to figure out how to fix this.
That's an example of the pivoting that we talked about.
I know.
Go ahead, Dad.
Lin, that your faith has been important to you over the years. Tell us a little bit of how you developed your faith and how you've used that also in your business and with your family.
Well, I was raised up in a ministerial home, and always had strong faith. And I don't wave the flag all the time by any sense of the word, but I shared with you earlier that I believe that God opens the doors, and God opened a door for me in 1983. With this company, and I made a covenant with him, and I said, Father, if you'll bless this company, I'll give you 10% of the net profits. And we've continued through the history of this company, give back to charities and churches and children's education and everything, 10% of the net profits from the company, along with taking care of a great people. And that's just, he was very faithful to me and had blessed me and gave us favor with the people. And in turn, we want to have that same love for him. And that 2 days of quiet time I needed, Dick, was really some prayer time and writing and thinking about, are we in the right position? Are we in the right lane? What do we need to do different?
Yeah, that's very important. That's been really important in my life, and I know it has in Kevin's, and it's something that people need to understand that there is somebody who's a lot smarter than we are, who's in control of everything that goes on in this world. And I think of your life, and I think of my life. Uh, he took me through step after step after step, and I thought I was doing one thing, but he had another plan for me, and that all came together at the very end. And then I realized that he had paved the way by giving me some good experiences, some challenging experiences, and I valued that.
And Kevin, we continue to grow and drive these companies, but I look at 25 years ago, we wrote a plan about something that I wanted to do in my lifetime. And now those doors are opening. And my wife and I talk about it. It might be Lindy, but my legal name's Lindy, Lindy 2.0. And Dick knows I've been working real hard on some stuff, and, where God's opening these doors all of a sudden. And, it's just amazing what's happening out there. And I can't take that position till 28, but I look forward to that opportunity.
Yeah, we had Gary Bender on from CBS a while back, and one of the things he's talked about is he's taken his skills and he's repurposed himself, because you've developed a great skill set, and it's amazing that you can apply those skills like Dick has done in all sorts of areas, not just your professional area. One of the big questions we get from young people is, if I'm thinking about a career, or if I'm thinking about how to position myself, what should I be thinking about now? And given you have a number of students that you're sponsoring, what are you telling them in terms of advice? What should they be thinking about as they're looking for a future career, future vocation?
It is the most challenging time to determine what effect AI will have on entry-level and mid-level jobs. I believe you will always have senior lawyers, senior auditors, senior management leadership positions. But the integration that we see in the fast-moving transition, just in our own companies, of our call centers, of our engineering staff, what we do today, of our estimating staff, the online system, Timberline, everything that we do today, that whole skill set is changing so fast. That in a speech that Elon Musk did, the trades are protected for 2 decades, because we don't have a robot or the analytics today that can pull wire, run conduit, integrate critical systems. So we get asked that question a lot. I've got a young man that works for me that's finishing a master's in accounting and is going to take his CPA exam. I'm not sure where that world ends in the next decade. I don't know if that's a good answer, but
do you think that the entrepreneurial skills that you've developed and honed, which is you're great at networking, you're great at constantly learning new things, you're great at risk-taking and pivoting, do you think that set of skills is what people should be equipping themselves for, because you don't know?
Because you don't know, that's the survival skills. I think that you constantly have to look at your network, look at where the opportunities are coming. And the best thing to do is try to predict where the best economic growth, the GDP, will be that fits your skill set in the next decade.
Right. Yeah. And as I mentioned earlier, it's not just students who are contemplating college or it's a lot of mid-career people that are
it's the
asking the same questions this Christmas.
No, it's the mid-career. I don't know. I, to be honest with you, highly concerned of the global aspects of the integration, the growth that'll be in the AI implementation for mid-level management in the next 5 to 10 years. And I don't know. we were talking to some professors at Harvard and some professors at MIT, and they reminded us about it. Well, computers were coming and they were going to take everybody's job, and this was going to come and it'll fill its. He said that the solution will integrate itself. I believe that to a point. The European model that we're looking at has about a 12% displacement. There's a model in the U.S. that has about a 17% displacement of unemployed workforce. A little bit of that is benefit by you have a shrinking workforce with an aging population,
Right.
too. So there's a migration there. I'm not smart enough, Kevin, to fully understand the total complexity of it, and I'm not sure there's a lot of people that do today.
I was at the University of Chicago, and we were talking to one of the AI experts who's actually a practitioner, not an academic. And he said that at the end of the day, these personal relationships will even matter more because,
Yes, I agree.
How to navigate, how to find opportunities are going to be more and more important. That human touch, that human network, that human interaction. And he suggested strongly that becomes part of what you do day in and day out in terms of continuing to build and grow your network and keep it fresh and not just wait till there's a crisis before you're reaching out to people.
No, I had a person this last Friday reach out to me. He had already let it get to a crisis, and you and I would have looked at it, and I said, this problem started 9 months ago. This problem didn't start Friday morning at 9 a.m. So what have you done in the last 9 months to prepare for this, to solve this? You saw that it was a merger acquisition, and would he have a slot or would he not have a slot? And obviously, by that conversation, when the chairs sat down, his chair was empty, or there was one less chair, and you needed to start working on that 9 months ago. And it goes back to the developing the relationship with the acquiring company. All the things that you just said will be so important.
We kind of all learn over the years that the project and the beautiful buildings and the resources are one thing, but when it comes down to the bottom line, the name of the game is people and relationships. And if you don't have good people, regardless of your product, you're not going to be very effective. And that's one thing you've been good at, is hiring good people and weeding out the ones that are not productive. And
Just
to be a challenge and uncomfortable sometimes, but it's an important part of running a business.
Well, Kevin, you'll laugh. We have a saying around here. I love you and Jesus loves you, but you got to make your numbers.
Right.
And that accountability has to happen.
Well, there's a lot of discussion around the importance of servant leadership, but servant leadership has both elements, and one of the elements as part of servant leadership is accountability. And so you want to develop people and all that, but you still have to hold them accountable, and that is critical in any enterprise. In anything that we do in life, there needs to be a combination of development and then also accountability in a level of performance, especially in a business. Otherwise, it won't last. So,
No.
Well, Lin, this has been great. You are one of these great entrepreneurs. You're now in one of the most great segments of the economy. Yeah, you must have been. It almost looks like as you've developed this business and have done the key things right on the people side, you've done the key things right on the growth side and how you've put your resources, and you've taken great care of your customer, who apparently loves you because they keep giving you more stuff to do, and that's always the ultimate compliment. When they keep calling you up and say, "Can you do more? Can you do more of this?"
When you've been in business 43 years, you've had clients 42 years, the same clients. That's I enjoy that. I enjoy that relationship, and I enjoy just serving them, and they've been very kind to us.
Well, you're a great entrepreneurial role model.
Yeah, it's been great.
Well, thank you. Thank you for taking the time, Kevin. I enjoy that. Dick, thank you for always being there and leading us and giving us some wisdom when we need it, and Dick and I have had some unbelievable conversations over the year. Not all of them easy, because there's always a few things that in life that jump up at you that you get to deal with. But having someone to talk to about it that has knowledge and faith and been there and give you good wisdom, and then you again, the decision at the end of the day is yours. But I just appreciate and thank him for all the time he spent with me over the last 20 years. That you invested in me, I just can't thank you enough. It gives me insight and wisdom, and it also gives me leadership with my teams about stuff to think about. And, I'll never forget, Dick and I were talking about 7 people in our management training program, and I said, Dick, I need you to tell me be honest, what you think about those 7. And he did, and it really spoke to my heart, because I felt the same way about 2 of them, really, really good, and I felt the same way about 2 of them, really bad. And to have that confirmation that I don't believe they have the talent to get you to the next level means you don't want to spend another 5 years of energy poured in there. Not that they don't have to leave the company, but they may not have the capability and drive to lead a business segment.
Right.
So, but thank you, Kevin. I appreciate your time, and anything you need, please reach out. And thank you.
Thank you, sir. Have a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Very good.
Yeah.
Take care, Dick.